who created God? Where does God come from? Who created God? All right. Look, just like any other conversation we have with regards to these matters, right? I always emphasize the point that I am coming from a point of ignorance, a point of not knowing. Right? I don't have the answer, but I need us to discuss this together and see if it makes sense to us or it doesn't, right? Remember in my previous video, titled Who is God? What is God? We spoke about, we came to a conclusion that God is all there is, right? And there's nothing else, right? Because there's nothing that is not God. For God is omnipresent and God is spirit. And we did say that you cannot say the spirit starts here and it ends here, right? So there is nothing but God. You know what I'm saying? So if we think about the question of who created God or where does God come from, let's think about what the word create means, for instance. Right, so create means to bring something into existence, in my definition. So something that was not there, you brought it into existence, right? You created it. If you create a cow with clay, the cow was not there, the clay was there. So you took the clay and you molded it and you got yourself a cow, right? So in essence, what you did there is you then set a clock on your creation on the cow, right? So because from the time you bring the cow into existence, that is the beginning of the cow's time, right? We can then say the cow has been around from this time, because before then we could not say that because it was not there. But now that you've brought it into existence, it means we can assign or allocate time to its existence. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, right? So everything that is created basically means it exists within the spheres of time, right? So everything that is created is given time, is allocated time, because you can then say it started then on the 22nd of the 14th of the 56th, right? That is where it started, because that is when it was brought to life. You know, so you can then measure its existence with time, right? So where am I going with this? On the other hand, God, the creator, right, does not exist within the sphere of time. You know what I'm saying? So because she is out of the sphere of time, we cannot give it a beginning. We cannot then say God was created. So the question itself becomes null and void, and the question then just does not make sense, right? Because for it or for him or for her to be created, she must be within the sphere of time. But what we know, or what we think we know, or what we have learned in our journey here on earth as these beings, is that everything, including time, was created. So time started when time was created. So before time, time was not. Right? So time started when time was created. Therefore, you cannot, if you look at the lifespan of the cow, let's go back to the example of the cow, for instance. So if you look at the cow, if I am the creator of the cow, right? I have been here longer than the cow. Therefore, you cannot put me and the cow within the same time dimension. Right, so the cow is newer. You could say I am older than the cow because for me to bring it into existence, I must have been here first to bring it into existence. Therefore, the time sphere or the time dimension in which the cow exists is not in my time dimension. You know what I mean? So because the creator created, we even the time, the creator created even the time, we can then not expect the creator in this instance. Obviously, I am saying the creator is God, who is all there is, right? We cannot then say that the creator was created because the creator created time, right? And to say the creator was created is basically to allocate time to the creator, because the next question would then be, when was the creator created, right? But the creator created the time. Therefore, we cannot put the creator in the same time dimensions, right? There is no time before the creator other than infinity, right? And infinity is infinite, you know? So the creator is there even beyond infinity. He is there beyond the beginning of time. Therefore, we cannot say the creator was created. If you follow what I'm saying, you can then say we cannot say that God was created. Therefore, you cannot say who created God or where does God come from. He does not come from, because she was not created. God has been there, right? We know God has been there before the beginning of time because that was the beginning of creation, right? Therefore, beyond that, we cannot use even the word when, because when speaks about time, right? Time did not exist before creation. You know what I'm saying? So God is there from infinity to infinity, right? He is spirit. She has been there way before time. Therefore, God was never created. So that nullifies the question then, who created God? So, in conclusion, based on this, we can then tell that nobody created God. And I think that, okay, nobody created God because God was not created. God was, God is, and God will be. You know what I mean? So I think the question of who created God is birthed from the misconception, right? If you have not looked at my other video where we speak about who or what is God, then you may still have the misconception that God is some by a big white man with a beard sitting somewhere. But because when you are thinking about God, you are thinking about a being that is sort of like you and me in the flesh, like this, but that is greater and cannot be seen. Therefore, when you think of God in that sense, you may be tempted to ask who created that being. But as from my other videos, we've reasoned that God is not that, right? God is that, God is that, God is that, God is that, you know. And you must understand that we do not know everything, right? All we know is all we know. All we know is what we have been able to accomplish so far. So we do not know everything, right? Because if you think about it, a scientist would come to then tell you that this finger has 74,000 cells, right? But in the near future, another scientist would come and say, no, actually, this finger does not have 74,000 cells. It has 63. The other stuff, so the knowledge that we have is not it's not finite knowledge. It's not complete. It's not to say what we know is what there is. You know what I mean? We know that there's 7 planets, but recently discovered that scientists have discovered that there's actually more than 300 other planets that we do not know yet, right? So the knowledge that we have is not conclusive. You know what I mean? So we do not know the rest of it. We do not know the all. We know just a tiny, teeny, teeny, teeny little bit. You know what I mean? So, just going back to the question, the conclusion is that God was not created because God is, God was, God will be, right? All the is all there was, and it's all that there will be, right? The fact that things were created, it does not mean that there is something new, right? For instance, if you go back to the clay cow example, the fact that the cow is there, it does not mean that it's new, right? The cow is there, it was just clay, right? Just had to take the clay and mold it differently and you made a cow, right? But if you put it back on the ground with the clay, it is still the clay. You know what I mean? So all there is all that there has been. It's just presented differently, applied differently, utilized differently. But the saying that the more things change, the more they stay the same, because we cannot take anything from the cosmos and we cannot add anything to the cosmos. It's all there has ever been and it's all there'll ever be. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, God was not created because God is there beyond the dimensions of time. So if you can travel to the end of time, time traveling, and you can travel to the beginning of time, when you get to those 2 points, when you look on the other side, you would see that God is there, beyond the dimensions of time, right? So whether you travel to the north, to the east, to the west, to the beginning and to the end of time, you'd see that God is there even beyond that dimension of time. Maybe one day scientists will enable us to time travel for real, and we can go and prove that, can go and see that actually God is there, even beyond this point. I hope I've answered your question. Yeah.